Well, Brazil. It's a huge country with 215 million people, and it's like a smaller version of the world. It's divided into 5 regions: North, Northeast, Central West, Southeast, and South, and has 26 states plus a federal district. But Brazil is more than just São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, favelas, samba, or football. So let's just get into it. Let's start with Acre. It's in the end of the world, and as a matter of fact, it doesn't even exist. They're all aliens that have dinosaurs as pets. Also, some people say that Acre is like Area 51. But I don't think that's true, because Area 51 exists. Nothing is so insane that can exist on Acre, and anything strange could be happening there without other Brazilians knowing, since most of them have never even set a foot in the state. On top of that, news arrived very late to Acre. For example, they have just received the news of COVID-19 pandemic. But despite the popular belief, there are people from Acre that live amongst other Brazilians, which explains why Marina Silva only appears once every 4 years and then returns to Acre and no one hears from her again. They were once famous for their rubber production, and the other states used to joke that they take milk from the wood. And the capital city, Rio Branco, is a hot, non-existent city inside the Amazon rainforest. Alagoas is known for its beautiful beaches with crystal clear water. Also lagoons. Alagoas literally means lagoons in Portuguese. Despite being one of the most beautiful states, the poverty and corruption situation is pretty ugly. And generally people are poor. But not everyone there is poor. The state is basically dominated by traditional political families with roots that could be traced back to colonial times. The state has the gorgeous city of Maragogi, which is known as the Brazilian Caribbean. What else? Sugarcane and coconuts. And finally, Maceió, the capital, is slowly collapsing into an abandoned salt mine. Amapá is all empty and no one has ever been there. Actually, monkeys in this state outnumber the people. Everyone thinks this state is all about the jungles and indigenous people, and the rest of the country only hears of them when they're out of electricity or something. I'm the most unknown state. At least they make jokes about you. They make jokes about you too. Guys, hold my beer. Also, they're culturally close to French Guiana and Caribbeans, with lots of zouk and cambia in their music and dance. Going to this state may feel like going back in time 10 years, and crime could be a problem too. And the capital city of this state, Macapá, is less developed than the rest of the country and has noticeable Caribbean and French Guiana cultural influences. Amazonas. The stereotype is that everyone living there is an indigenous person who lives in the middle of the rainforest, has a jaguar and an alligator as pets, and goes around by swinging from the trees or by a boat. Also, they're in a constant fight with the idiots who are taking their lands and cut down the trees. The state is ridiculously hot and it rains a lot. Wow, that rhymes. The locals eat lots of acai and fish, and the women dance carimbo. I think there's a rivalry between them and Pará. Is this true? And Amazonas kind of reminds me of Alaska, because both are the biggest states, both have tons of wilderness, both are isolated, and in Alaska you ride your bear to work, and in Amazonas you ride a big snake. Well, that didn't come out right. And something crime. Manaus is the capital and is basically an economic hub dropped in the middle of the jungle. On top of that, it's known to be the Paris of tropics, with their great French-style music. Bahia is the most African state of Brazil. They're stereotyped to be comically and unrealistically lazy people who speak very loud and don't work. Aside from speaking loudly, they like playing loud music in their super corny customized cars. Also, they say Bahians sleep too much. Well, that's just not true. They only sleep like 7 hours at night, plus 2 hours of nap for 3 times a day. All of them are party freaks who sleep in hammocks, know how to enjoy life to the fullest, love their never-ending carnivals, and spend hours at the beaches drinking coconut water. And you might not know, but they live on acarajé and do 8 hours of capoeira and 9 hours of samba every day. They remind me of Mississippi or Louisiana. Why? Because of their massive African descendant population, it's comparatively less well-off and safer than the rest of the country, and also it's hot as hell. But they have a very rich culture. The city is basically the crib of samba music and African Brazilian religions. And speaking of which, they're mostly religious and conservative, but very humble and welcoming, and they'll serve you great food. The state has some problems though, like corruption, drugs, crime. I guess I'm gonna say these three words a lot for the rest of the video. Salvador, the capital city, was actually the first capital of Brazil. And for more info, watch this Michael Jackson music video. If you're liking the video so far, please subscribe and check out my other Stereotypes videos. The first thing that comes to mind is big heads. Yeah, they're known to have big, flat heads, which explains why they have such great results in education indicators, even higher than some developed states. Now, the second thing they're known for is them being funny and having a great sense of humor. Well, I hope they do, after all those head jokes. Your heads are fine. Here's an apology gift. It's a hat. They work very hard and a good amount of them go to São Paulo for work. But they get recognized immediately because of their big accent. Yeah, accent. And they really like photo music. Some people say it's hot there. No, it's not that hot in Ceará. At 12 p.m., it's only 38 degrees Celsius. They also have a huge coastline and cashews. The capital, Fortaleza, is lively, gets many tourists, and it's great for wind and kite surfing. There are some problems with the homeless and the traffic is just horrible. Distrito Federal is where the capital city of Brazil, Brasília, is in. And almost every Brazilian hates it. But why? Because it's where most of the overpaid, corrupt politicians and public workers live. Because it's a new planned city, and as a result, people find it bland and soulless. Additionally, the city is too spread out, and it's filled with empty spaces, and as a result, it's car-centric. So much so that it feels like the city was built for cars, not the people. I'm sorry, Oscar Niemeyer, but a lot of people don't like your modernist architecture. But between you and me, I like him, especially the cathedral. Some people would rather Brasilia becomes the target practice for nuclear weapons, but at the same time, there are people that love the city. So it's one of those either hate it or love it ones. Other Brazilians stereotype them as cold, unfriendly elitists. So yeah, as I said, everything in Brasilia is distant. But this is just a stereotype, and you don't have to worry about it, because everything is so spread out that you won't see any people. So anyways, it was just like Alcatraz. The only thing I could do was to get a good view of the sky. Also, it's filled with the worst types of criminals and thieves. So what was the name of the prison? What prison? I was talking about Brasilia. So you may wonder, is Espírito Santo even a state? I thought it was Minas Gerais' swimming pool. And I'll say, of course it is a state. And about the Mineiros, most of them are practically their cousin. And during the summer they colonize their mountains and beaches. Some people call them Acre of Southeast. Why? Well, because just like Acre, they kind of, how can I put this into words? It doesn't exist? This is mainly because the state is very isolated. Some people don't even know that Espírito Santo is in the southeast region. Maybe that's because they're surrounded by these monsters. The corruption and violence is relatively lower. Also, did I mention they're filthy rich? And their culture is rich too. They have festivals all year round, produce coffee, have great food, and awesome people. Do you remember when I said the state is very isolated? Well, the capital city Vitória is even more isolated. Why? Because it's a freaking island. Goiás. They're like the Texas of Brazil. Both are rich, wear cowboy hats, have a rodeo and country music obsession, and some sincere and warm people. And hell, Goiânia could be Dallas. Why? Lots of money, luxury cars, and millionaire buildings. They are rural people who all own ox and cattle. You might think to yourself that I mean like a redneck, right? Yes, I mean that. Also, they usually drive a Volkswagen Amarok. Anyways, about their food, they have cheese bread and cheese-filled pastries. So it's easy to guess what they like. Yes, high cholesterol levels. Also, they're famous for their doce de leite and pequi fruit, hot springs, and how it's a crime to leave the state without first buying some cheese, coffee, and milk. Sertanejo is their jam, and they hate it when Mato Grosso claims it's theirs. And don't you dare telling them their music is a bit repetitive. And how it's all about love, drinking, partying, Now that I think about it, it's great. The capital city, Goiânia, is a lively and green planned city. Everyone there is a bad driver, and they're always rocking out some sertanejo music. Also, they have a beef with people from Brasilia. Am I right? Maranhão is one of the poorest states in Brazil. They have a lower average income compared to the rest of the country, but that doesn't apply to a certain group of people there. People from Maranhão are famous for being controlled or, basically ruled by a traditional family for a long time. So you can make damn sure they're rich. Do you remember from Avengers Infinity War, the planet where Red Skull lived? Well, that's the Lençóis National Park, which looks sick. It's like a flooded desert. But the state isn't all desert and dunes. This is a map of the state. In the east, it's all savannas, but in the west, rest is covered by Amazon rainforests. Also, it's really hot there, if you haven't already guessed. And the capital city, São Luís, is one of the 3 island capitals, and they all love reggae music. Mato Grosso. They're kind of like Goiás, even when it comes to the stereotypes. So it's made up of farms, cattle, scrubby vegetation. By the way, they have the Pantanal biome, which is the world's biggest wetland. Also, the state is a scorching hot this month, or the whole goddamn year. Even by Brazilian standards, it's really hot there. Now the people. Well, they're a bunch of cowboys who are either dirt poor farmers or crazy rich farmers. And they speak with strong R's, and I don't know, they like drinking terere. And the capital city, Cuiabá, is pretty hot. In Mato Grosso do Sul, everyone grows soybeans, has a caiman, jaguar, and capybara as pets, and they like to stare at their state's natural beauties after they feed a bull to their jaguar and caiman. Mato Grosso do Sul, more like Pantanal do Sul. You remember about the Pantanal biome, right? Well, they have like 60% of it. Suck it, Mato Grosso. So they focus their tourism on it, also the city of Bonito. This estate is Brazil's barn, and they are similar to Mato Grosso. So farms, cattle, cowboys, scrubland, all that, but with even more beautiful landscapes. And this is their neighbor, Paraguay. Well, they have cultural similarities. And about the capital, Campo Grande, it's green and is filled with cowboys. Minas Gerais is one of the most beloved states. They get the least hate from other Brazilians. And if you go there, you know that you're gonna eat well. First, let me introduce you to their obsession, cheese bread. It's basically part of their lifestyle, especially with some Minas Gerais black coffee. It's divine, it's everything. So anyways, they make some great cheese and put an awful amount of it on everything. And do you know why the cheese is great? They make it with love. In fact, do you know why their flag has a triangle? Because they represent the 3 vertices of Minas Gerais culture: cheese, coffee, and minerals. Now, about the people. They're stereotyped for being suspicious when they are in a new situation, and they tend to gossip a lot. They'll be all laughs and smiles, but will talk behind your back. What a lame person. Also big nose. Plus, they absolutely would never say they don't like you right in your face. And at times, you'll know for sure that they hate you, but you can't prove it. But that doesn't mean they all won't like you right away. Sometimes they're evaluating how much they can trust you. Bargaining is also another one of their habits, because they believe they're being taken advantage of, even though they're not, which gives them the reputation for being difficult and stubborn, which itself connects with the whole conservative state stuff. If you go to Minas Gerais, know that there are no beaches, and when they're saying something is right over there, it's actually far away. You're also gonna hear these 3 words a lot: Uai, Bao, and Trem. Overall though, they're very calm and open people and are actually quite lovely. The name of the capital city, Belo Horizonte, literally means beautiful horizon. It's a modern, newly planned city, which is filled with rich people who want to show off their mansions. The average Pará citizen is an indigenous who lives deep into Amazon forest. He's always hunting and raised dolphins to go around. He usually pays a visit to his shaman, and at night comes home to his alligators and 50 meters long pet anaconda, and after playing with them and eating the hunt of the day, falls into sleep in his hammock. Either this or they're working on an endless BRT project. The state is huge though. Also, they love acai. They eat acai salty and unsweetened, but in the south and southeast, they make it sweet and sometimes eat it with powdered milk and even M&Ms, which makes them lose their mind. After eating the acais, they all take a long nap just like people from Bahia. It's like anesthesia. Also, they love tacacá and produce some fine chestnuts and Brazil nuts. I guess they're just called nuts there though. The music scene is pretty great in this state, thanks to their rich and diverse culture. Joelma from Banda Calypso is from there. Also check out Foro Genre. And finally, they have a big Japanese community and the biggest town in Brazil. And the capital city, Belém, is near the mouth of Amazon River, and it's known to be the city of mango trees. Paraíba is known for these beautiful beaches, their tough people who are deemed as funny folks with a very strong accent. Also, they say their heads are flat because they always slept in hammocks as babies. In Rio de Janeiro and some southern states, people use Paraíba as a generic term for anyone from the northeast of Brazil, not just the state of Paraíba. And it's sort of in a derogatory way. Why is that? Well, I guess because for a long time, northeasterners were the most common internal immigrants. So everyone was afraid that they're gonna steal their jobs. The women there are strong and hardworking, so they say the women are just as macho as the men. The state is dry at places and really hot, and they've had terrible droughts in the past. And some of them, especially the younger population, say boy at the end of their sentences. Also something about couscous, because I love saying couscous. And the capital city, João Pessoa, is an old city with beautiful architecture and festivals. The state of Paraná. This place is known to be organized with disciplined people. They're really proud, and others might interpret it as arrogance. Paraná was structured by settlers. They are descendants of Poles, Ukrainians, Italians, Russians, Japanese, Germans, etc. So a good amount of Slavs live in this state, which explains all the crazy, weird, wild things that happens in this state. You want examples? Here's just the tip of the iceberg. Reign of spiders, flying priests, Jesus reborn, third monument, etc. Also, they say Paraná specifically is like Russia. Well, if that's the case, then Ponta Grossa is like Moscow. But these are just bunch of lies. It's not cold at all in Paraná. They just have a habit of going to botanical garden when it's freezing and talk to Rasputin while drinking vodka and staring at capybaras. And just like their weather, some people consider them cold. Well, at least by Brazilian standards. Another state that Paraná gets compared to is Santa Catarina. Yep, it's like a smaller, southern, Brazilianized version of it. And no, there are no guys who shave their heads, wear bomber jackets, and believe in an ideology that is started by a bad Austrian painter during the 1930s in Germany. They're famous for this beautiful piece of heaven, Iguazu Falls. Before talking about the capital city, I apologize for not including Russian subtitles. Curitiba is the capital. It's green, organized, clean, and very cold. If they see someone complain about the cold, they'll be like, oh, so you think that 10 degrees Celsius is cold? In Curitiba, it's like minus 41,369 degrees Celsius, and we are not even wearing jackets. And the locals there will instantly recognize that you're a tourist if you greet them and be nice. Pernambuco. The name of this state is of indigenous origin, and it means hole in the sea. They're one of the economically developed states in Northeast region, and it's a beautiful state. Now, about their stereotypes. Their neighbors from the Northeast region view them as arrogant people who think they're better than them. But for the people outside of Northeast region, Pernambuco is a place for street parties and long carnivals. Speaking of carnivals, they have the Bonecos de Olinda, where people carry 3-meter dolls of the most random group of people that you will ever find. I want to imagine a Pernambuco citizen as a friendly and sweet person who complains about the droughts, is a big frevo music fan, and loves going to Boa Viagem. But then he gets attacked by a shark and dies. Also, they have the gorgeous Porto de Galinhas, which is Portuguese for port of chickens, but not for a good reason. If you know, you know. The capital city is Recife. The city is known as the Venice of Brazil, has a great nightlife, and watch out for your phone. Piauí is the poorest state in Brazil, but never mind that. Look at these beautiful beaches. The state is super hot, so when you tell people that you live in Piauí, they think that it's a place like this. This state is home to the comedian Whindersson Nunes, and he's basically responsible for the rest of Brazil knowing about this place. If you talk to someone from Piauí, don't ever mention the word train whistle to them, because others make fun of them by saying that their state's name is after the sound of train whistle going Piauí Piauí. Piauí is famous to have beautiful women. And about the guys, they're uglier than the devil. But you put them together and wham! You have a baby that loves eating bomba for every meal and drinks cajuiana 24/7. Also, look at this painting in Serra de Capivara. Cool, right? And you might find it interesting that it's more than freaking 25,000 years old. And the capital city, Tereziana, is one of the hottest capital cities in Brazil, if not the hottest. And it's quiet and nothing really is going on there. Rio de Janeiro. We can all agree that it's the most well-known Brazilian state, but people always confuse the state with the city. I guess Cariocas really know how New Yorkers feel. Okay, look, this is the state, and this is the city, alright? It's not all about the city. The rest of the state matters too. Alright, that's enough about the state. From an outsider's point of view, the city is viewed as the place with the Christ Redeemer statue, a place of constant celebration, big parties and carnivals, with some tan and friendly people who are always smiling and love dancing samba. And you cannot separate them from their flip-flops. They go everywhere with those things. Cariocas need to curse in every 3 words spoken, spend most of their time on the beach, and they live either in a slum with no clean water or in a super rich neighborhood like Leblon. They love football, and all of them can do 3,000 kick-ups in a row. Speaking of which, they all like one of these teams. Now, Rio de Janeiro also has a dark side. I mean, the city is lovely, but I'd be lying if I say it's all dance and fun and partying. Cariocas get associated with gangs and drugs, and the city is viewed as a violent place filled with thieves, crime, and corruption. A good example would be Two Guys, One Motorcycle. I think everyone in Rio is familiar with that. But I gotta say, people exaggerate a lot about Rio, because there are at least 10 other capital cities in Brazil that are more dangerous than Rio. People in Rio also have had a huge rivalry with São Paulo for years. One major reason would be the pronunciation of the word cookie. I kid you not. Also things like who has the best funk music. They literally turn everything into a competition. And finally, aside from the random people trying to sell you things in the streets, how everything is more expensive for a gringo, how you should be 100% aware of your surroundings all the time, and stray bullets, I think RJ is a nice place with nice people who might invite you to hang out and party. Now, there's a small teeny tiny chance that you might get killed or robbed, but at least you'll get a good view of the ocean before that happens. Rio Grande do Norte is the land of endless beautiful beaches and constant sunny weather. The people there don't have any specific stereotypes that I know of, except that they're friendly, simple folks who live a slow-paced life far from the economic centers and like to chill in Pipa Beach and sip coconut water and coconut water only, because they can't afford anything else, because they're poor. They end their sentences with boy, have sand dunes, camels, and dune buggies. I wish I could use my Anakin sand joke, but I've used it way too much, I guess. The capital city, Natal, is a sleepy coastal city which is known as the City of the Sun. So the city is sunny and has the Panta Negra beach, which is filled with loud people who play loud music and want to sell you something. People in Rio Grande do Sul, or Gauchos, are hospitable southerners who love their barbecue, are patriotic, have their own unique culture, and are clinging to the war they lost in the past. So who do they remind you of? Texas. The Phoenix A black hole is there for you to understand the scaling of the state. But unlike Texas, it gets really cold there. By Brazilian standards though, which is like beach weather for Canadians. One stereotype about them is that they love doing Roman salutes, shave with razors like this, and are always talking about fourth pike or bike or something. For more info, check out Santa Catarina section. Gauchos love partying, eating these seeds, and garlic bread. And one thing you'll notice about them is their accent and how much they like drinking chimarrão. Okay, now some people consider them as proud and arrogant. Also during the summer, many of them go to Santa Catarina but keep talking about how their state is better. And about their architecture, it's awesome. Yeah bro, it's all German. We don't look like the rest of the states. Yeah. It's kind of like Austin, very progressive, but in a very conservative state. But it's a decaying city. They're dealing with bad traffic, high prices, pollution, and other things. Well, Rondônia. The state is poor, empty, and nobody lives there. As a result, not many people think about them. I mean, they became a state in 1981. If you go there, you have to drive over clay roads. Just joking. There are normal roads too, like 4 of them. Also, they cut down trees for fun, so you could guess that they're not best buddies with indigenous people. About their jobs, everyone's either a worker, a logger, or a rancher who is pushing into Amazon jungle. They also get floods, but at least the people are nice. And their capital city, Porto Velho, is in the middle of Amazon jungle. Roraima is the least populated state and is so far away from everything that it feels like an island. This state, along with its pals Amapá, Acre, and Rondônia, is considered forgotten and empty, but it's truly biodiverse. I mean, it has the Amazon rainforest, savannas, mountains, and it's hot most of the year. This state is there to protect Brazil from Venezuela's invasion. Joking aside, the place is filled with Venezuelan refugees who have escaped from Maduro. Most other states only get reminded of their existence when it comes to their border issues with Venezuela and French Guiana, the conflicts that they have with indigenous people, and maybe their natural beauties. Also, everyone in Roraima works in the public sector, and their capital city Boa Vista is small and quiet. Santa Catarina. This place is the Germany of Brazil. They're one of the widest states. Also, they have the biggest Oktoberfest outside Germany. Well, they're like Germans alright, but so what that they shave their heads and wear heavy boots? And so what that they have a giant flag with a certain Hindu symbol on it on their wall? And so what that they do a loud speech in German when they're taking a shower? Wait, what do you mean by all these? Additionally, they're also similar to RS. And just like them, they have a totally different architecture from the rest of the states. Santa Catarina is also one of the coldest states. It's minus 5 degrees Celsius. Yeah, I mean, it's cold. Maybe for you though. I don't feel cold one bit. And on top of that, they're stereotyped as racists. But of course, that's just a stereotype. The state is also clean and developed with a high standard of living. Not much is going on in the capital city Florianopolis, which is an island. They have great beaches and carnivals, but after 8 a.m. and during the weekends, the place becomes a ghost town. Why? Because everything closes. During summer, they have more people from Argentina than the Argentina itself. You wouldn't even know that it's Brazil. This city is swarming with them, and if you don't believe me, go ahead and yell, "Pelé is better than Maradona," and they'll trample you to death. São Paulo, the most populated state in Brazil, and is seen as the land of opportunities, and is the tech capital of Brazil with lots of businesses. If Rio is LA, São Paulo is New York City. The people are stereotyped as rich, chain-smoking funk fans who are pragmatic, ambitious, and are truly obsessed with work and hustle culture. Paulistas are all programmed to work till they die. Also, they spend around 80% of their lives in traffic and public transit. And just like New Yorkers, they're always pissed, stressed out, and in a hurry. So if you want to piss them off more, walk slowly in front of them. In São Paulo, half of the population can be warm, friendly, and chill. However, the other half are unfriendly jerks who are very arrogant. Also, they have a huge population of homosexuals there. And they can be really good at ignoring you, but you gotta cut them some slack. Because in a place that people are aggressively approaching you to sell you something or ask you for money, after some time you just get used to ignoring everyone. São Paulo also has the two guys, one motorcycle phenomenon, but these people can identify them from 10 kilometers away. The city also has a big Japanese community, and the inhabitants are usually the descendants of Italians, Portuguese, Germans, and the Spanish. Everything looks great in São Paulo, and some idiots say that the air is polluted. Well, that's a lie. I'm gonna prove it to you, but first, let me use my inhaler. About the countryside of São Paulo, they're super conservative. And finally, Paulistas always talk trash about Rio de Janeiro, because they hate that Rio is more famous than them outside Brazil. Just kidding, of course that's not the reason. And the real reason isn't even behind football. It's about biscuits or cookies or crackers, I don't know. Just whatever you do, do not ever say biscoito in front of them. The state of Sergipe is the smallest state and they're as isolated as Espírito Santo, maybe because the state is overshadowed by their neighbors. Also, they all drive jeeps and answer questions with no say. Great beaches, rivers, trails, etc. But to me, they're all about crabs. They love crabs so much that the state is filled with crab restaurants. Also, in the city of Itabaianinha, there are dwarves. About Aracaju, the capital, the place is portrayed as a peaceful place, but not much happens there. Not much to say about the Tocantins. They were once part of Goiás and were separated from them in 1988. So the state is new but underdeveloped. And others only hear about them during extreme heat or when they're having infrastructure problems. There are a lot of ranchers there and they're famous for their cashew, starfruit, and the indigenous people. And the capital city Palmas is a new planned city with a low population density.